Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. It is Thursday, the 29th of May. And coming up in this episode of the pod, I'm going to take you to Ottawa. Yesterday was Prime Minister Mark Carney's first opportunity to enjoy the delight that is question period. That, for those who don't know, is where the opposition parties get a chance to ask the government questions about their agenda, about why they're doing what they're doing, about future plans, and typically, until recent years, the government would answer that question, and that's where the news would get all of their sound bites from. Now, in recent years, we had Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who was not very good at answering questions. In fact, he made a bit of an art out of not actually answering questions. So we'll find out how Prime Minister Mark Carney can do in his first question period. I'm going to get to that audio coming up in just a few minutes. First off, kind of breaking in the last 12 hours or so, a court in America has ruled that Donald Trump did not have the authority to impose the tariffs that he imposed. Do you remember Liberation Day? If you missed it, hey, why not take a little trip down memory lane? You can go back and listen to that episode the day those tariffs kicked in. I had a great episode of Scott Fox After 9. Now, if you just want to take my word for it, it's been a little rough. Not as bad as they led us to believe it was going to be, but now it looks like these tariffs aren't even a thing. I'm fully expecting the U.S. government to appeal. In fact, they've already announced they're going to appeal this decision, but it could take a while for that to happen. So are we under tariffs now, or are we not under tariffs? And what does that mean that Donald Trump did something that the courts say he had no right to do? And does that mean that we're still in the fight of our lives? Without the tariffs, is the threat of America annexing Canada still real? Or was it ever real? That's another question that I think we're going to have to debate in the future once the current situation dies down a little bit. Either way, the tariffs have been ruled basically illegal. Now, the reason that this happened is because the court ruled, this is the Court of International Trade, Trump does not have the authority to impose tariffs on nearly every country through using the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. That's an act from 1977. That act is a national security statute that gives the U.S. president authority to control economic transactions after they declare an emergency, quote unquote. Now, this ruling is from a 3-judge panel. It says any interpretation of the act that delegates unlimited tariff authority is unconstitutional, and the challenged tariff orders will be vacated. That was how the judges left their ruling. Again, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be an appeal. It'll probably go right up to the U.S. Supreme Court. But for now, this court has ruled Donald Trump didn't have the power to do it. So I'm wondering, does that change how we feel about the American situation? Do we still face some sort of imminent threat? Really hard to say. I don't know where we go from here. Turns out it's not even really a thing that he could do it. And if there's no tariffs, is Loblaw still going to go ahead and raise our grocery prices this week? Because they said that that was coming and they blamed tariffs. I don't know if that's where we're going or not, but it seems like anything else is going to be unfair. I do have some audio to play for you before I get to the audio from yesterday in Ottawa, question period. First one for Prime Minister Mark Carney. I want to start off with the U.S. Director of the FBI, Kash Patel. Yesterday, he sat down for an interview on Fox News, and they asked him a question that I think a lot of people would like to hear the answer to. Listen to this.
The other thing on the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them on everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's interesting. He says he does have lots of Epstein files, but he doesn't seem to be in a rush to release these anytime soon. And while I certainly appreciate the desire to get this right and make it readable for people who want to see the Epstein files, I still don't understand, with the vast resources of the FBI, how this can take as long as it's taking. There was one more question on Fox News for Kash Patel.
But there is a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you, he killed himself.
Do you buy that? I mean, I have no reason to not believe the director of the FBI, Kash Patel. This is somebody hand-selected by Donald Trump to lead the FBI because he knows that Kash is not part of the establishment that many people feel has been covering up various things on behalf of the U.S. government. Now he's in there and he says, based on what he's seen, Epstein did kill himself. It doesn't seem plausible, but I also have no reason to not believe Kash Patel. Now, if he's hesitant in any way, he's certainly not indicating that. But it's a serious concern. There's a lot of people who want to know exactly what happened here. Other news coming out of Washington yesterday, Elon Musk no longer working for the Trump administration on Doge. Here's a little bit of President Trump being asked about that yesterday.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and it's got a way to go, but.
Oh, Jesus. I can't even with this guy anymore. I mean, he is driving me crazy, and he did not answer the question. He didn't answer the question. Elon Musk is now being critical of Donald Trump. Now, that could be because he wants to make it seem to the public like he's no longer affiliated with Donald Trump. Leave him and his car dealerships alone. He just wants to be a multi-billionaire. But he's still working for Trump. It could be that. Or it could be legitimate. He's actually quite upset that all the work he did for Doge is not necessarily being included in President Trump's big, beautiful bill. He wanted that to be law. He wanted a lot of that funding that was going to really weird places to be completely cut off. And it doesn't look like this bill that Donald Trump is putting all his eggs in that basket for doesn't seem like it's going to do that. So if he's frustrated, if he feels like he did a lot of work and it went nowhere, I understand his frustration, but Elon Musk, either way, no longer affiliated with the Trump administration in that way. He's no longer a special government employee working on government efficiency. There is one more clip from Trump I want to play, because I was not aware that there was actually an acronym floating around about Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump was aware either until he got asked this question. Check this out.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead.
Ooh. President Trump did not like that. I do want to reiterate that acronym because I think that that's an interesting one that may possibly catch on. TACO. This is the accusation that some on Wall Street are using of Donald Trump. TACO. Trump always chickens out when it comes to tariffs. And it's true. How many times has he done that? Yeah, we're going to put in tariffs. We'll push him back a couple of weeks. We're going to set him this high. Nah, just set him that high. Trump always chickens out. TACO. Interesting. Okay, that's a little bit of a snapshot of what's happening in America. Now let's bring it back to Canada because there are a lot of things happening here. Again, I am going to play Prime Minister Carney's first question period in just a sec. Then I'm going to bring in Anna Almeida to go through a whole bunch of other stories. First off, I do want to acknowledge a huge story that's happening here in Canada. This is Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew.
The Manitoba government has declared a province-wide state of emergency due to the wildfire situation. This is a significant step we are taking to uphold our obligation to keep people safe. We're talking about roughly 17,000 people that we are looking to provide safety to and to prevent the loss of life. The wildfires in northern Manitoba have intensified since we gave our update this morning. Wildfire and emergency management officials have now been advised that evacuation orders have been issued for the city of Flin Flon, the communities of Pimichigamak Cree Nation, Puckatawagan Cree Nation, and the Northern Affairs community of Cross Lake. All told, we're looking at about 17,000 people in northern communities that are being evacuated from their homes over the next few hours. The majority of these folks will be coming to Winnipeg. This is the largest evacuation Manitoba will have seen in most people's living memory. For that reason, our government has triggered a province-wide state of emergency to allow us to respond to this crisis. It will provide provincial officials the ability to safely transport evacuees and to provide shelter for them.
I'm going to leave it there. The premier does go on, and if you want to see it, his whole news conference from yesterday is on YouTube. I am really thinking about the folks in Manitoba. Typically, when we hear about wildfires in Canada, it would be British Columbia and Alberta. You don't often hear about wildfires of this magnitude affecting northern Manitoba. However, they are, and the government has imposed a state of emergency. Now, I have two requests. If you're in Manitoba listening to this podcast, thank you very much. I appreciate you listening to Scott Fox After 9, and I highly encourage you, follow the direction and instructions of local officials on the ground. They've got a plan. They're executing it. Everybody needs to be safe here, and if you listen to local authorities, hopefully they can do that. The other thing I want to say is to the government itself. Heard a lot of stories about mandatory evacuations lately, and one of the things that I have always been concerned about is the amount of time they are mandating that people cannot return to their homes. Mr. Kinew and to the federal government, to all officials that are working on this fire, good luck, Godspeed. I hope you are safe and I hope you get these fires under control. But God, do not force people to be out of their homes a minute longer than they need to. Once the emergency is over, once the flames have passed by, allow people to go back to their homes. People are a little suspicious of government right now. What are you guys doing in entire cities that are under a forced evacuation? You've just got unfettered access, unchecked to everyone's home. Why do you need that? When the fire is over, when the danger has passed, let people go back to their home at the earliest possible convenience. It's the right thing to do. And with that, I will end that segment and move on. We got to talk about the Prime Minister. Yesterday, his first question period, and question period begins with a question from the leader of the official opposition. Here is an exchange between Andrew Scheer and the Prime Minister yesterday.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome the Prime Minister to his first official question period. This is where democracy lives, and this is where we provide rigorous scrutiny on every word he says and every dollar he spends on behalf of Canadians. Now, let's talk about those words and dollars. During the election campaign, it was elbows up as he put retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Then secretly, he dropped those tariffs to effectively zero. But he didn't stop there. He told Canadians that the government would collect $20 billion in revenue from those tariffs and use it to cost his platform. Now that those tariffs are going to bring in $0, two quick questions. Why wasn't he honest with Canadians during the election? And how's he going to make up the shortfall? Is he going to borrow it, print it, or tax it?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Before I get to the answer from Prime Minister Carney, I think everybody who's being objective can agree that's a fair question. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister didn't tell anybody, but our retaliatory tariffs, he set them to zero. Why did he do that and not tell anybody? We were all supposed to be elbows up, right? What happened there? And how is he going to make up that shortfall? Because I distinctly remember during the campaign, Prime Minister Carney promised people that were affected by tariffs, the people who lost their job, mainly in the auto and steel industries, he promised them the money we collect from those retaliatory tariffs would go to them. Let's hear the Prime Minister's answer yesterday. This is his first answer on question period.
Mr. Speaker, may I first thank my constituents from Nepean for giving me the honour of being here. And could you also indulge me to say how great it is to see you in the Speaker's chair, and I trust that you're operating under the period of grace that will not be accorded to me. Appropriately, as the Leader of the Opposition just said. Mr. Speaker, our tariffs have maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada, and we are dedicating all the revenues from those tariffs to supporting the workers and businesses affected by the unjustified American actions.
Hear, hear.
Okay, I'll let Andrew Scheer do his follow-up in just a sec, but I want to point out that he did reduce the retaliatory tariffs to zero. The retaliatory tariffs are the ones that would have cost Canadians, but also would have generated revenue that apparently was going to be distributed to those people who were affected by the tariffs. If he rolled it to zero, there is no revenue. I'm not quite sure what the Prime Minister is saying, but I agree with the many commentators and pundits that have pointed out he's not off to a good start. He's not answering a question. But let's hear the follow-up here and see if things get any better.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, he didn't take long to pick up old Liberal habits of not being able to answer questions. But since the election, Canadians have been inundated with grand rhetoric and pretty speeches from this Liberal Party, but they are still suffering under all those policies. Household debt up at record levels, number of people who can't pay their mortgages increasing, food bank use continuing to rise. Now TD Bank is forecasting a recession with hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. The PM said undoing the damage of the last 10 years would require great speed, but he's not going to table a budget for 6 months. If he's the man with the plan and the guy you hire in a crisis, why won't he table a budget before he goes on summer vacation?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the member of the opposition is very busy, didn't have a chance to study closely the 100-day plan of the former member from Ottawa, Carleton, which did not include a budget. Our plan includes legislating. Our plan includes legislating for one Canadian economy and nation-building projects immediately to grow this economy, and we expect the support from all in this House.
The Honourable Leader of the
Okay, I can't just let that one go. I can't. Again, that's not an answer to the question. Andrew Scheer is quite right. TD is now forecasting a recession. They're forecasting tens of thousands of jobs are going to be lost in the next few months. We have a government that has got some priorities. Good on them for forcing this tax cut through. We need a tax cut. I don't think this one's big enough, but we do need a tax cut, and good on Prime Minister Carney for recognizing that. But about this budget, typically, you don't spend any money without a budget. We have to know where the money is coming from and where it's going. Various departments need to know how much money they can spend on various things. Without a budget, we have no idea. And while the Prime Minister did have time in his answer there to take a veiled shot at Pierre Poilievre, he did not answer that question. And I'm not going to tell you how to feel about that. You can feel however you want to feel about that. Maybe there's people listening right now that thought that was an appropriate answer. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you there. I want a little more from the Prime Minister on his first day. He's been Prime Minister for a couple of months now. This is the first time in the House of Commons that he's required to be accountable to the opposition parties. And so far, 2 questions in, we haven't heard much accountability. But there is a second follow-up. Let's hear that and see if things get any better.
Opposition. They must be really afraid to come clean with Canadians if they're going to punt it off into the fall. But, Mr. Speaker, with the throne speech yesterday, Liberals have effectively admitted that it was their policies that caused the suffering for Canadians. Their reckless borrowing and massive deficits caused the inflation. The carbon tax drove up prices and drove away investment. And their anti-development bills chased jobs out of Canada. Now, the Prime Minister is claiming that somehow the Liberals have changed. Well, he has a chance to prove it to Canadians. If he's serious, will he tell Canadians that pipelines are part of his values by repealing Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Canada's new government is acting immediately to grow this economy. I just made my maiden speech in this House. Canada's new government, Mr. Speaker, is acting immediately to grow this economy. 1 Canadian economy out of 13, nation-building projects, 1 project office, working with the provinces to cooperate. We expect the support from the members opposite. Hear, hear.
Guys, he's 0 for 3 here. That was the first chance. I actually liked that question from Andrew Scheer. You say this is a new government. This is your chance to prove it. Very simple question that a lot of Canadians would like to know where our government really stands on that issue. Are we going to continue blocking pipelines, or are we going to build pipelines? That was a very easy opportunity for the Prime Minister to say, we are going to build pipelines. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to take advantage of Canada's resources to help get us out of the hole that we're in right now, to try and get out of the deficit that we've got, to try and make the cost of living a little bit better for more people. The Prime Minister had a chance to do it, and he didn't, and I'm really not sure why. I'll leave it at that for the Prime Minister's first day. Not a great one. I've tried to be real fair and give the Prime Minister as much runway as he needs, but frankly, he's out of runway and it's time to pull up and get in the air. And he did not take that opportunity yesterday. I think everybody listening can agree those were not actual answers to the questions that were posed by the opposition. The Prime Minister is required to answer these questions. He's required to be accountable to Parliament, and he didn't do that yesterday. Now, that's not to say he won't turn a new leaf. That's not to say he won't be accountable, but he certainly has not been so far. And not producing a budget, that's another big red flag. Before I move on, I'm going to bring in Anna Almeida in just a sec. First off, I'll give you an opportunity to hear a little bit from the actual leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, who yesterday held a news conference right before question period. Here is Pierre Poilievre.
Yesterday, the government tabled a Ways and Means motion with regards to 3 tax measures. Now, I'll just take a very brief trip down memory lane, not to go too far back, but of course, we Conservatives have been leading a crusade for lower taxes, to axe the carbon tax and the GST off new homes, to cut income taxes. And of course, when we proposed this, the Liberals said we were crazy, and now all of a sudden they are, at least in part, plagiarizing our policy proposals and adopting modified and watered-down versions of them. Their motion will partly eliminate the carbon tax, the GST off homes, and give a very modest, very tiny income tax cut. So tiny that it would be barely enough to buy you a cup of coffee every week at a Starbucks. But it's better than nothing. Conservatives came here to fight for lower taxes and more purchasing power. And so we are going to put forward amendments to this motion that will get rid of the entire carbon tax for everyone, for real, for good. We also push for the GST to come off of more homes so that we can encourage more building and more buying. And we'll push for a bigger income tax cut that people will actually notice so that hard work really does pay off for a change.
I'll pause Mr. Poilievre there. And again, I am going to get to Anna and a whole bunch of rapid fire topics coming up in just a few minutes. Before I do, though, let's take a second to drill down on that. 3 different things that Mr. Poilievre wants. And before I recap the 3 things, let's talk about what Parliament is. Parliament has a government side. That is the party with the most seats. That's the Liberals right now. But they have a minority government. They say they've got a strong mandate. I don't know how anyone could see it that way. I'm really not sure how you could. It seems to me that Canadians did vote for a few things. They voted to never become the 51st state. The 2 parties that won 90+% of the seats agreed on that we will never become the 51st state. Maybe it was like 85% of the seats. Take away the block. We also agreed we wanted lower taxes. We also agreed we wanted more affordable homes. So Mr. Poilievre here has suggested that the government is going to get some conservative amendments. He wants to have the GST come off of more homes, not just the ones that Prime Minister Carney wants to take the GST off of. He wants an even bigger tax cut and more. Now, typically, governments or the people that make up the House of Commons would be expected to work together to find the best compromise for the Canadian people. It hasn't worked like that over the past number of years. In fact, I don't even remember the last time we had a prime minister that would actually reach out to the opposition parties and say, hey, here's what we want to do. We would like your input and we'll come up with a consensus that everybody in Parliament could agree upon. You know, the Conservatives are saying they're going to put forward some amendments to the Liberal proposals. I think by and large, most Canadians agree that they do want a bigger tax cut, that they do want the GST to come off of more homes, that they do want the cost of living to come down. So knowing that, why wouldn't the Prime Minister sit down with the opposition parties, whether it's Pierre Poilievre or not? He could sit down with Andrew Scheer and some of the Conservative House leaders and say, hey, we agree with you. Taxes need to be cut. How can we cut them even more? How can we maximize the value to the Canadian people? It doesn't seem like there's going to be any collaboration here. And that's sad. There really should be. I'd love to get to a place where politics comes secondary. Prioritizing the needs, wants, and desires of the Canadian people is the priority. I would love to get to a point where that happens. Unfortunately, so far, based on what I saw on day 1, that doesn't appear like it's in the cards. I'll play just a little bit more of Pierre Poilievre, and then Anna is coming in just a sec.
Finally, we are going to push for cuts in bureaucracy, consultants, corporate welfare, and foreign aid so that we can match the lost revenue with lower spending in order to avoid adding to the deficit. Every dollar of deficit spending is a dollar of inflation that ultimately shows up across the country. We cannot print and borrow our way to prosperity. We need sound money again, and that means bringing down the deficit. So we will, that said, we are the party of taxpayers. We will vote for every tax cut, always and everywhere. We love taxpayers, and we want taxpayers to be better off. We will offer even better ideas in the future. And as I said a few weeks ago, I'm encouraging the Liberals to steal my ideas because we have the best ideas. We've been winning the debate on ideas, whether it's on carbon taxes, inflation, housing, resources, drugs, crime. Conservatives have been leading on all of those things. And we're here for the right reasons, not for our egos. It's to get things done to make people's lives better so that they can work hard, have beautiful homes in safe neighborhoods. That's our mission, and that's what we'll fight for.
Okay, let's switch gears now. I'm going to bring in the great Anna Almeida because I want to talk about a couple of different things, and I think we deserve some hot takes here. Anna, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Real good feedback still coming in on Monday's episode of the pod when I used music to tell the story of my friend who had his silent date weekend at the cottage. A lot of people are following up. They're asking questions like, is there going to be a third date?
Yeah.
Is there anything happening there? I'm going to answer those tomorrow in listener DMs. And you can slide into our DMs at Anna_Almeida or at Scott Fox on Air. Ready to get into a whole bunch of rapid fire topics here, Anna?
Let's do it.
Okay, this is also, by the way, kind of a service because I like to provide news and information in this podcast, but let's add in a female voice here and expand our horizons a little bit.
I'm happy to lend it.
Okay, first off, let's go with this one. What is the secret to living a long life? You were in television for years. You've probably done those interviews where such and such is turning 110. So we sent a crew out to ask her, what's the secret to long life?
I have on many occasions, for sure. And it's always so interesting what they come back with because it's never, I walked every single day. I
went to the gym.
Never.
No.
It's always something usually not good for you.
Yeah, I ate clean. You don't hear that.
No.
102-year-old from Henderson, Texas. Her name is Wilma Bennett. Recently celebrated her 102nd birthday. 4 things she says to living past 100. Number 1, farm-grown meals. Eat clean in that sense.
All right.
Number 2, love and support from your family.
Yeah.
3 and 4 are different. She drinks Dr. Pepper daily and eats Cheetos all the time.
Yes, my girl. Okay. Those are the stuff I like because it makes me feel less bad about eating as much chips as I do.
I firmly believe that a lot of the mainstream media is bought and paid for by Big Pharma. And that's why I'm surprised that they air those segments. Things like, oh, this is such and such, and they smoked a pack of cigarettes for their entire life. Every day and live to 110.
But the thing is, when you think about it, those people who live to 110 and they say that they smoke those cigarettes, they were smoking the harsh stuff, before companies came in and cleaned it up a little bit.
Those
right?
were the types that used to put salt in their beer and rip the filter off their cigarettes.
Yeah, like I'm telling you. So, okay, I love her. Wilma, all right. Cheetos and Dr. Pepper.
New poll by YouGov says 77% of people believe that first cousin marriage should not be legal.
Pardon?
Hold on a second here.
Yeah.
77% of people. I'm going to say this one more time, a different way. Only 77% of people believe that first cousins should not be able to marry. What are the rest of you 23% up to?
They're married to their cousins.
Actually, get this. 9% support first cousin marriage. What if you put a room with 10 people in it, one of those people would believe first cousins should be allowed to marry.
No.
There's a bucket or a garbage beside you if you want to throw up.
Disgusting. I'm sorry.
14% said they don't know if first cousins should be able to marry.
What do you mean you don't know?
You should know this. This should be very, very, very basic.
What? So that's like, imagine you marry your first cousin or date them and people ask like, oh, how did you guys meet each other? At our family gathering, like a family reunion.
Christmas dinner.
Excuse me? What? Are you kidding? Are there no people? No. Just be alone.
Anna, 70% of Canadians surveyed say they think child vaccines should be mandatory.
70% feel it should be mandatory. Okay.
So the flip side of that is 30% disagree.
Okay.
I learned a lot during COVID, and I'm not ready. I'm not ready to take anything else that the government tells me I need to take, particularly those folks in public health. But 2 things on this. Number 1, I don't think it's relevant to ask the entire general population about childhood vaccination. I think you need to ask parents. Would you get your child vaccinated? And I've seen some of those surveys recently. There's a lot of parents who are vaccine skeptical at the moment.
I got to be honest with you. That's a huge topic of discussion when it comes to our friends. We actually try to stay away from it because people are they feel very strongly. Half my friends, they don't have their kids vaccinated. The other half feel that they should be. And it's a personal preference. But to me, I was vaccinated. So some things that are easily cured, let's say, even we're seeing the measles come out and we know there's something that works for it. I mean, if it helps, why not?
Speaking of the measles, and I'm not going to name which public health unit, but a friend of mine who works in education recently informed me that they've been informed by the folks at public health that it may soon be mandatory for educators to have an up-to-date measles shot, i.e. a new booster from within the last 15 years. I had my measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines when I was a kid. I got my booster shot when I was in elementary school, just like everybody else. And then I've carried on. Apparently, they want even more. And they're going to try and force people in order to keep their job to get a measles vaccine.
Get out of here.
Anna, did we learn nothing from COVID? Like, part of the reason that there's so much vaccine skepticism right now is because the government so aggressively pushed it. Mm-hmm. And what about all these people that are now suing? You forced me to get the shot and I didn't want to do it and I lost my job. Those people are all winning in court right now.
I mean, as they should. You can't force somebody to do something they don't want to do, but yet that was the writing on the wall, and people did. They lost their jobs, and again, now they're going to pursue a similar situation
with the measles vaccine.
Come on, like, give me a break already. Enough.
Hey, I don't want to see measles circulating any more than anybody else.
But come on.
But I mean, I'm vaccinated, so I'm not worried. You're vaccinated.
I'm not worried.
So you're not worried. If this is something that's really only circulating amongst the unvaccinated, and nobody has died, what's the great concern here from public health? Why are they sticking their nose in this? And by the way, one more thing about this.
Please.
I remember during COVID, they talked about herd immunity. The more people that get vaccinated, the less the virus can circulate. Well, we should have herd immunity. I get that there's people who aren't vaccinated and there are new cases popping up. But if the vast majority are vaccinated, what is the concern here?
Yeah, it's touchy because even I have friends whose kids were exposed to measles and then they have to stay home. There's like this big protocol now and da-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, I don't want to put something in my body again that I don't want in my body. And I don't feel like you should have to be forced to do that again.
I want to wait until Robert F. Kennedy in the U.S. is done with his Make America Healthy Again approach. He's doing a pretty extensive set of research to find out if there's any link between vaccines and some of the more common ailments that are affecting society, things like autism and more. He says he'll probably be done by the end of the summer. I don't know why we would rush into any conclusions until we find out the results of the work that his people are doing. Personally,
yeah, I agree. I mean, take your time. And he has said some really strong things, though, about autism that, it's really rubbed people the wrong way who have children who are autistic or they, in fact, are autistic. But again, just wait and see. But it's a personal preference, too, if you want to get your kids vaccinated or not. But I don't think as an educator you should be forced, again, to do something that you don't want to do. I mean, then should the flu the flu be mandatory?
The flu shot's been around for 80 years?
Yeah,
and we still have the flu.
Yeah.
So I don't know what good that does.
And I get the flu every time I get the flu shot. I don't know. That's just me, though.
No, it's not just you. There's a lot of people like that. Hey, I do want to clarify here. I am not trying to encourage anyone to be vaccine skeptical. I'm simply pointing out that there are a lot of people who are, and I truly understand why. And it all has to do with public health itself. And it's like there's no mirrors in that building. Mm-hmm. Like they accept no responsibility for how they acted during COVID.
And I got the COVID shot. Like, I was for it. I will say it. I was for it. And, my dad was going through cancer treatment. I wanted him to be as protected as possible. Not so much for me, but those around me. So I did it. But to, get back to that mentality of must be, you have to do this. No, I don't think that's fair. Again, you have learned nothing.
One more thing on Robert F. Kennedy. Thanks to his work and the Make America Healthy Again initiative, Skittles has now agreed to change their recipe because there were concerns over an ingredient in Skittles linked to DNA damage and cancer risks. Mm-hmm. The company removed titanium dioxide from its candies after a health report warned about its dangers. Despite the reformulation, there are still 4,300 U.S. food products that contain titanium dioxide.
So those are the things that make your cereals brighter, the colors brighter, your Skittles brighter, the red Skittles.
Hey,
yeah.
Anna, why is there so much concern about things like cigarettes and things like that causing cancer? Here's something where we know there's a link. It wasn't just in Skittles. It's in 4,300 other products. Why is there no warning label on that? The government knows about that. There's no dispute that there's a link between that and cancer. Why was that still allowed to be in any food?
And still now, it's still going to get pushed through. Absolutely. Because it's moneymaker. It's a moneymaker. You're not going to, step in and shut things down when it's providing money. It's like pharmaceuticals. I'm sure there's cures for things. I said it. There's cures for things.
Yes, there is.
You know what I mean? But yeah, people are going to lose money and they're not going to let that happen.
To our great listeners in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, officials are asking pet owners to find new homes for their unwanted goldfish after fish were spotted swimming in local ponds in Kitchener and Waterloo. Jessica Kellerman is the Director of Stormwater Management and Construction with the City of Waterloo. She says goldfish are an invasive species. She says when goldfish are dumped into stormwater management ponds, they end up wreaking havoc on city facilities and on resources, not to mention the ecosystem. Neighbors say they've seen an explosion of goldfish in a retention pond off Spurline Trail, including some koi fish so far this year.
Who would have thought I never, in my years of ever having a pet fish, would have ever thought to drop them off in a location like that, first of all. But
just go and dump them in a pond. What are you thinking?
Right, but they're the simplest pets to get. That's why you get them, because they're just in a little can, basically, and just swimming away all day. Like, what is the problem here? Like, what? There's no maintenance.
I don't understand why you would get rid of a fish. I mean, it's not like they live for 40 years.
No.
If you made a decision to get a pet, I really think you should see it through.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about like a cat or a dog or something like that, and you truly cannot take care of it, that's why we have an ability to surrender it to the Humane Society.
Which is the right thing to do.
It totally is. It's the fair thing to do to the animal. Now, you can't go to the Humane Society and surrender a goldfish, as far as I know.
I don't know either. That's actually a really good question. Can you?
So you've really got, I think they'll take any animal because I know that they are animal lovers.
Fish.
It's a fish. Like, why did you get a fish if you didn't want a fish?
I know.
And to just take the fish and chuck it in a pond nearby. What are you doing?
And they're causing havoc. Like, I didn't know that could happen with a goldfish. Like, this is news to me. I mean, they're having the last laugh, those goldfish. You see?
The New York Post says Tinder is changing their strategy to appeal more to Gen Zers, who they say are having less sex. What is it about Gen Z that they're having less sex, Anna? The generation that came after you.
They want more connection, I think. Now it's like more the love story. So
is it?
I guess. I don't know.
Are they a romantic generation?
Maybe they learned from us.
Or maybe they don't know how to socialize.
This is true, too.
Maybe they can't get laid.
You don't have to. Yeah. But you don't have to talk during sex. There's that. So I'm surprised they're having less sex. I'm not jealous about you then.
Well, there is a new CEO at Tinder. Says he wants to create low-pressure ways for people to connect on the app. That includes the new double dating feature, which is going to launch this summer after successful testing in Europe. That new CEO says members don't want more matches. They want better matches.
See, meaningful, Scott.
85% of singles who do not use Tinder say they avoid Tinder because it's known as a hookup app and they're looking for a relationship. Okay, well, if you're Tinder, that's a big problem. You have basically the same service as Match and Plenty of Fish and all these other ones, but people think you only go on there when you want to screw somebody.
It's the truth, though. That's what I keep hearing all the time. I've never been on it for that reason.
I've never even opened Tinder. I don't even know how it works, to be honest with you. However, for those who are in the know, and are using the app, maybe you'd like the double dating feature. You actually researched how this works.
So basically, you and a friend who are on the dating website on Tinder, so you could pair up together. And you actually have the opportunity to pair up with 2 other friends, so 3 in total. And then you would go and then you would swipe right onto another group. So it would be, let's say, Scott and Tony Monaco.
Yeah, my buddy Tony. Me and Tony are going to be on Tinder together.
Yeah, so you two. So the ability is there. I could swipe right, and then the 4 of us could connect. And then from there, if I really connected with Tony, I could swipe right specifically with him, and then he and I could directly talk to each other. It's almost having a wing person, but online. So if you are not really good at communicating or a little bit nervous, you can have your friend kind of start that conversation between the 4 of you, and then you can branch out from there.
Hold on a second here. Is this a good idea, by the way? Do you think this is a good option?
No, I think it's stupid.
Okay, good, because I thought we were catching you in a bit of irony after you said the silent date was stupid.
I think
this is ridiculous.
Do you know, but
like, what do you want them to come and push for you as well?
Legitimately, but that is where we're at. And then from there, maybe you'll get that one-on-one interaction after you've had the 4-way conversation. I don't know. I think it's just an opportunity to bring more people in who are socially awkward.
Happening now in California, they've got a big push on to try and get Canadians to come to Cali. They've seen their tourism drop quite a bit. I Googled it. Yeah, they're offering like 25% off hotels. It's still not enough to make me go to that state that God forgot.
Oh.
California is hell on earth. I would not go there while that current government's in place.
Interesting.
F them.
Okay.
So, hikers apparently have started doing this. And when you Google California vacation, this is one of the first things that comes up. It's the 24-24-24 challenge.
What is it? 24. I don't get it.
You eat 24 burgers, drink 24 beers, hike 24 miles in 24 hours along California's Pacific Crest Trail. Now, they say most hikers complete the hike and the beer challenge, but they fail when it comes to eating 24 burgers.
They're nice and hydrated for their walk, but not fueled enough by the food, though.
24 hours? I feel like I could eat 24 burgers.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, depending on the size of the burger, but 24 beers, like, that's something we know we can do. Mm-hmm.
Would you do it? Because you don't need to go to California to do it. We've got lots of trails around here. We'll even shrink it to 24 kilometers.
Ooh.
You could walk 24K and drink 24 beers in 24 hours.
I don't know if I could finish the walk if I started drinking 24 beers. I got to be honest with you. But that would be a test for sure. You know, they do the mud runs and stuff. I want to try the 24 here.
Okay, so no joke. I was in, where was I? I was in Kamloops. And it was back when Coors Light was doing a promotion called the Mystery Mansion. Do you remember that one where if you got select cases of Coors Light, you could possibly win an invite to the Mystery Mansion?
Oh my gosh, no, that's so cool.
I got invited on it. I didn't win it.
Oh.
Coors flew me out to Kamloops, and that's where the Mystery Mansion was. It was actually a great big ski resort in Kamloops. And I remember thinking, all right, I'm going to go out to Kamloops for 2 nights. I'm going to drink Coors Light until I drown, and then I'm going to come home with the world's worst hangover.
Yeah, well.
No, they made us hike and run. I could probably do 24K with 24 beers. In fact, I might have actually done that already.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you train. Now you're a perfect coach to have on site.
I could be a coach.
Yeah, you could do it.
You're absolutely
Motivation.
right. Have you been following along with the latest developments in the Hockey Canada trial?
I have. Yeah, there's so much information that's been coming up, but all still the same information. Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing.
It's like seems recycled.
One thing that I will point out for those who are trying to keep track but not hearing a lot of info, I totally understand where you're coming from because it is hard on some days to find info.
Yeah.
Basically, what's come out of it now is they're playing back some of the interviews that the detectives did with the 5 hockey players when they declined to lay charges all those years ago.
Yep.
The stories they gave then are remarkably consistent with the stories they're telling now. And they did all have consistent stories. There's a reason the defense called these people or is using this as evidence is because they've said the same story all along. Doesn't seem like there was any collusion there to try and cover for each other or anything like that. It seems like they all agreed right after it happened and all these years later that it was her that initiated everything. And for the most part, they did not participate.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for them to not lay charges then, it's just so interesting that it would be open up now and try to lay charges now when the story hasn't changed.
Yesterday, they played some audio from Alex Formanton and Dylan Dubé. They spoke with that lead detective in November and December 2018, respectively. Formanton said he volunteered to have sex with EM after she asked his teammates if anyone would do anything with her.
Wow. See?
I'm still not clear on whether or not he did or didn't. I think he did, but I think they're arguing that that was consensual. He was the one who went into the bathroom with her.
Yes, but she offered. Okay, so there's that. That's what speculation. Mm-hmm.
And in the Diddy trial.
Oh my, this guy can't.
I don't understand why we're having a trial. This seems very open and shut to me.
Right? Thank you so much. I don't understand. Like, it is so obvious to me. Put him behind bars already and keep him. I mean, he is, but, you know, like the real prison.
The latest development is that Cassie had her baby.
Yes.
3rd child. Congratulations to Cassie and her partner. Finally, I'm going to end this podcast the way I began it, talking about tariffs. Yesterday, a court ruled that the tariffs that Donald Trump put on Canada and many other countries, he didn't have the authority to do. Now, this is going to get appealed probably right up to the Supreme Court. But for now, a court has said no. Where do we go from here? If the court has said no, are the tariffs on or are they off? I would have to assume they're off. And if they are off, what are we doing with companies like Loblaws that still say massive price increases are coming, they are imminent, and there's nothing we can do about it?
And how is this only caught now?
Right.
Really, we've only been talking about tariffs this amount of time. And
Since
now,
December.
And now they're flagging this. And of course, it's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court because if he hasn't appealed it yet, he is going to appeal it. But I find it comical.
The way he was able to justify these tariffs at the time was by claiming there was an emergency, and the emergency was fentanyl coming into America from Canada.
Yeah.
And of course, the people who are not fans of Donald Trump and many Canadians have tried to produce evidence to say, look, CBSA only sees this amount of drugs. The U.S. Customs and Immigration only sees that amount of drugs. There's no emergency. I feel like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
I agree with you.
I think it's very naive to think that there are no drugs going in, and the numbers that they are putting up to say there's no emergency, well, those are just the ones they caught.
Exactly.
We don't know exactly how many have or how much drugs has crossed over the border. However, based on some of the busts that I've seen just in the last couple of days, I'll say that our new border security measures seem to be working because we're catching an awful lot of drugs all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, I like that. Yeah.
Police in London, Ontario have seized 34.6 kilograms of fentanyl.
Wow.
The biggest fentanyl bust in their history.
Oh, wow.
Police say they also seized almost 5 kilograms of crystal meth and 474 grams of cocaine, along with 4 handguns and a semi-automatic pistol. Warrants were executed at homes in London, North York, and Hamilton at the end of April. 4 men have been charged in the investigation: a 44-year-old from Toronto, 23-year-old from Toronto, 33-year-old from London, and a 24-year-old from London. By the way, 2 of them are already out on bail.
No.
Swear to God.
Are you?
Out on bail with conditions awaiting a court date.
That is.
How do you get out of jail when you traffic that many drugs? When you're even remotely associated with it? How do you get bail?
And then they wonder, oh, this guy's on the run. Well, yeah, no shit. Like, what? Are you kidding me right now? This is outrageous. The system is so broken. It hurts me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot. Okay, wow.
How do we feel about ab etching? This is something that I gave Anna to look up today because I read an article about it and I was mildly interested. Men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are in increasing numbers. I'm not going to say this is a trend yet, but more and more are going to see cosmetic surgeons to have muscles etched onto their stomach, giving the appearance of a six-pack.
Can I tell you, I did. I went and I Googled, and they look really good. It actually looks really believable. And I mean, yes, it's through a photo, but yeah, I wonder. It won't have the same feel when you put your hand down the stomach.
That's the thing, right? But, and you know what? I'm actually hoping. I'm hoping that there are some women right now listening thinking, that's BS. Making it look like you've got muscles.
We can't.
And then once the shirt comes off, you learn the real story.
But hey,
this is makeup for your tummy. It's makeup. That's all it is. It's makeup for your tummy.
We can't say boo. I mean, we get our butts done. We get our boobs done. We get our lips done. We get everything done as well.
Makeup every day.
It's, I feel like it's fair. If they want to sketch it on, fine. And do you get to decide how many abs you want? Like, do you feel, maybe a 4-pack's more me? Well,
it costs between $7,000 and $13,000 to get this done. So I might opt for a cheaper option, like a 4-pack or something like that.
$10,000. You get a 4-pack. 2, 7.
How much to make me just not look fat? I don't need a 6-pack. I just don't want to look as chubby as I do.
They would be like, liposuction for you, and then we'll go from there.
That's the other thing, right? You could just go and get lipo.
Yeah, but then you'll gain it back if you don't take care of it. Yeah.
And I'm having fun. I'm going to do just a couple more stories.
I'm having a ball. You had me at the sketched abs, okay?
A woman was recently arrested at the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel in Washington, D.C. after she stripped naked, started throwing bottles at people in the lobby, and was making crude comments. The 31-year-old Husani Cacho was charged with simple assault, destruction of property, and disorderly conduct. She gave no reason for her actions other than just a general dislike for people.
I understand.
I feel that, right?
I sometimes just hate people, but...
No, I'm not going to take my clothes off and start whipping bottles, but I get where she's coming from. You get the wrong person on the wrong day that pisses you off.
And I mean, I think at some point, some of us have thrown something at someone. No? Okay, maybe that's just me in my younger years, but I was fully clothed when I did it.
The Daily Star says a 69-year-old man in Portland Sorry, he was in Poland. My apologies. He was in Poland, rolled up to a police station in a horse-drawn carriage while drunk. His blood alcohol level was over the legal limit. The man, who is banned for life from driving, was stopped by an officer who detected a strong smell of alcohol. So you got a DUI so bad that you lost your license for life and thought you'd be cute by going to the police station in a horse and buggy.
Like, what kind of world are you living in right now and thinking that's even okay? But a horse and buggy, I imagine seeing that coming down the main street here in town, a horse and buggy. This guy's just hammered.
Yeah. Fortunately, the horses are pretty good at navigation.
Thank gosh for that.
But this is still a dangerous situation.
Yes, absolutely.
What I'm wondering here, though, is did this guy discover a loophole? Right now, as everyone understands, if you drink and drive and you get caught, they're going to take your driver's license. Mm-hmm. If you do it in a boat, they'll take your driver's license. If you do it on a horse, they'll take your driver's license.
But he was in the buggy. The horse was doing the direction. I don't know.
Well, it's not even that. They've taken his license for life, so he's not allowed. You need a license to drive a vehicle, but you don't need a license to ride a horse. So if you've taken a DUI, they can't take your license a second time. Why wouldn't you just ride a horse?
Oh my gosh, I could just like see him going up there and just giving them the finger and be like, I won, you guys. But he didn't.
I hope they rearrested him. He's still driving drunk.
I'm laughing. It's a serious thing. I just think I'm picturing it in my mind. Police officers sitting and then looking out the window and seeing that come towards them. Imagine.
Finally, Anna, how do we feel about these people who go out of their way to get married in strange or untraditional locations? And I don't mean Vegas. You've probably heard that you could, if you wanted to, go and get married at White Castle. And they cater your reception with sliders. You could get married at a local pub. There's all kinds of different places you could get married. Are you good with that, or should it be in a more traditional setting?
Listen, I think it's stupid. How do I really feel? Okay, if it's a local restaurant, that's cool, local pub, because they have the room and it makes sense. You can do all in one. But if somebody's going to like a McDonald's to get married because that's where we had our first date, like really? And then there's just regular Joes coming in and out. I just think it's such an attention-seeking opportunity. I don't know. I think it takes away from the whole purpose of getting married. Do you know what I mean? Texas,
once again, Texas is becoming the new Florida, I find.
Yes,
here we go.
Yes.
Texas couple recently tied the knot at the local police station because they wanted to fight the stigma surrounding law enforcement. The bride, her name is Susie, she and her husband wanted to show support for the police. The groom expressed gratitude for the officers who protect their community.
Stupid.
I'm a law and order guy.
So am I.
I like cops. I've got a lot of friends who are cops.
Me too.
It would never occur to me to ask one of them if I could use the police station to get married in a sign of support for law enforcement.
Because we know better. Our friends would be like, are you okay? Is something going on? You know, do you need us to be there? Just blink twice if you need help. It just doesn't make any sense. It's stupid.
If you like amusement parks, I'm sure you've been to one recently. There is an amusement park in, where is this one? India. Universal Studios in India. Man, I wonder what that's like. What is Universal Studios in India like?
Yeah.
Well, they've got a Top Gun roller coaster that malfunctioned. Riders were left hanging upside down due to this malfunction. People magazine says 30 people were stranded in the air at Universal India due to the malfunction on the Top Gun ride. Passengers, including 8 children, were stuck for 3 hours.
Upside down?
They were dizzy and dehydrated, according to first responders. The park staff's attempts to rescue them failed. Finally, firefighters had to come in and save the day.
Whoa, that's a fear unlocked right there.
Okay, so
oh man,
let's think this through. I think everybody has been to Canada's Wonderland
yes.
or Disney or Universal, one of the Cedar Park type places. You've probably been on a roller coaster that goes upside down. And there's typically a harness that goes over your shoulders and it clicks in.
Yeah.
When you're hanging upside down and the fire department has to release the lock so that they can get you, your number one fear is you're going to catch me, right? Because
Exactly.
when you let go of that safety, you got to catch me.
You got to catch me, especially you're up high. For them to do a loop upside down, you're not close to the ground. You're up.
How does that happen? Like, did somebody just trip over the cord? Did the power go out? How does a roller coaster get stuck on the upside of a loop?
I have no idea, but it's true. Every time I go on a ride, I'm like, please don't get stuck. I don't want to have to deal with this. And being upside down, like if you were sitting up straight, not as big of a deal, but upside down, the trust, and then I'd be afraid that the power would then unclick the harness holding you in too.
That's the thing.
That's another thing that I would be terrified about.
I would never stop holding on.
No.
Even if I thought I was safe, I would hang on the whole time.
Like, the fireman like, Scott, let go. You're like, I don't know you.
That's when you firmly commit to terra firma when you get back down on the ground and say, I will not do this again.
What did they get after? Like a lifetime pass to the amusement park after that?
Okay, if somebody offered you that deal, they said, hey, you're going to go on the Top Gun ride and you're going to get stuck for 3 hours hanging upside down. But when we rescue you, and we will, you get a lifetime pass. Would you take that deal?
Yeah.
You would. I think I would too, actually.
I would.
That's the cheap coming out, but I think I would.
I would too. It's like 3 hours for a lifetime. Okay. All right. Just breathe through it.
Tomorrow is listener DMs. Again, Anna_Almeida on Instagram, or you can find me at Scott Fox on Air. You made a joke earlier, or a mention of Tony Monaco.
Yes.
Tony, my friend from Z1035. I should also let you know, Sunday, I'm going to be back on Z103.
Oh, fun.
Lots of people messaged me when I filled in over the long weekend, so we're going to do it again. I'll be back on Z Sunday night. Friends, have a great day. I will catch you right back here tomorrow for listener DMs. In the meantime, I will leave you with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now. Hey now. Sing it, Pat. Oh.